Stand by. Oh, what's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast. It's called What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Are you not entertained? Make your next thing a big one. This week's shows, well, as it's Friday, I have the Friday night, my usual public show on Friday night at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Video dance party karaoke jam. Now, today happens to be a very icy Friday. I'm hoping that the sun comes out. They told me yesterday that the sun will come out tomorrow, and it should burn off some, if not all of this ice. 37 degrees is not really hot, but we'll see. Hopefully we can make it to the Rab. It's up on a hill in Conway, Arkansas. So maybe we'll make it up to the hill tonight. 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the a.m. Full bar, kitchens open, pool tables. People are getting stir crazy. They've been stuck inside for the last few days. So, yeah, I think hopefully, if the sun burns off enough of this ice, we'll be up at the Rab tonight, 8 p.m. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Friday, February 25th, 2022. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Russia invades Ukraine and advances to Kyiv outskirts. Russia started its invasion of Ukraine, not the Ukraine, on Thursday with airstrikes on cities and military bases. Russian troops and tanks then entered the country on 3 sides and reached the outskirts of the capital, Kyiv, on Friday. In the biggest ground offensive in Europe since World War II, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned other countries not to come to Ukraine's aid, reminding the world of Russia's nuclear weapons stockpile and threatening, quote, consequences you've never seen, end quote. Ukrainian leaders said their military was fighting back and that dozens of their soldiers and hundreds of Russian troops had been killed. They said Russian forces had seized control of the decommissioned Chernobyl nuclear power plant in an attack that could, quote, cause another ecological disaster, end quote, at the site of the world's worst nuclear meltdown. This is according to the Associated Press and the Washington Post. Number 2, Biden announces more sanctions against Russia. President Biden announced more sanctions against Russia on Thursday in response to its invasion of Ukraine. Quote, Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences, end quote, Biden said. The new sanctions include measures to block technology exports, a move intended to deter Russian military and aerospace advances. Biden also said the sanction would target Russian banks and, quote, corrupt billionaires, end quote, many of whom have Kremlin ties. The United States also is targeting people in Belarus for that country's help in Russia's invasion. U.S. allies, including the European Union, also announced new sanctions. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said his country would impose its, quote, largest ever, end quote, penalties against Russia. This is according to CNN and The Guardian. Number 3, thousands of Russians protest invasion of Ukraine. Thousands of people across Russia took to the streets on Thursday to protest their military's invasion of Ukraine. A total of 1,745 people were arrested in 54 Russian cities. At least 957 of them were detained in Moscow. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the, quote, special military operation, end quote, that began Thursday, Moscow's biggest foreign offensive since the 1979 Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, was necessary to prevent, quote, genocide, end quote, in parts of eastern Ukraine controlled by pro-Russia separatists. Opposition activist Tatiana Usmanova called the invasion, quote, a disgrace, end quote. And she said she asked for, quote, forgiveness, end quote, from Ukrainians. Quote, we didn't vote for those who unleashed the war, end quote, she said. This is according to the Associated Press and The Guardian. Number 4, Pentagon sends 7,000 more troops to Europe. The Pentagon said Thursday that it will send another 7,000 troops, U.S. troops, to Europe to reassure NATO allies following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III ordered the deployment of an armored brigade combat team to Germany. President Biden has said the U.S. would not send troops to Ukraine, but would, quote, get involved, end quote, if Russia attacks any countries in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The latest deployment will increase to 14,000. The number of American troops Biden has sent to Europe since the start of the Ukraine crisis. The U.S. now has nearly 100,000 troops in Europe. The Pentagon also moved 6 F-35 fighter jets along with other warplanes to Eastern Europe to boost the defenses of NATO allies close to Russia. This is according to the New York Times. Number 5, 3 ex-Minneapolis officers found guilty of violating George Floyd's rights. A jury on Thursday found 3 former Minneapolis police officers guilty of violating George Floyd's constitutional rights as another ex-officer, Derek Chauvin, pressed his knee to Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes, resulting in his death. The jurors found that the officers, Tao Teo, 36, J. Alexander Kung, 28, and Thomas Lane, 38, willfully violated Floyd's civil rights by failing to provide medical care after he lost a pulse. 2 of the officers were found guilty for doing nothing to stop Chauvin. Kung and Lane helped Chauvin restrain Floyd, whom they suspected of using a counterfeit $20 bill to buy cigarettes. The verdict concluded a rare prosecution of officers for failing to stop another officer from using excessive force. This is according to the New York Times. Number 6, U.S. to loosen mask guidelines. The Biden administration on Friday is expected to loosen federal guidelines for wearing masks to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. The Associated Press reported, citing 2 people familiar with the matter. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reportedly will announce that it is changing the metrics for determining whether people should wear face coverings. The guidance currently focuses on caseloads, recommending masks for people in the roughly 95% of U.S. counties with substantial transmission. The new recommendation will also look at hospitalizations and local hospital capacity. Under the new guidelines, most Americans will no longer be advised to wear face coverings in indoor public settings. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 7, Biden reportedly has decided on his Supreme Court nominee. President Biden has reached a decision on his nominee to replace retiring Justice Stephen Breyer on the Supreme Court, several news organizations reported Thursday night. The announcement is expected as soon as Friday, although the timing remained in flux due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Friday will mark 2 years to the day since Biden first pledged during a 2020 primary debate in South Carolina to pick the first black woman for the Supreme Court. Biden has interviewed at least 3 potential nominees. Federal Appeals Court Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, South Carolina federal judge J. Michelle Childs, and California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger. The White House has declined to comment. This is according to the Washington Post and CNN. Number 8, U.S. stocks rebound from plunge triggered by Russia's Ukraine invasion. U.S. stocks made a stunning comeback on Thursday, closing with big gains after Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent shares plummeting early in the day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed up 92 points, or 0.3%, after falling by as much as 700 points. The S&P 500 gained 1.5%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ jumped 3.3%. Despite the turnaround, the S&P 500 remains in correction territory, down more than 10% since its record high out on January 3rd. The NASDAQ composite started the day in bear market territory, more than 20% below its November record, but rebounded and closed about 16% below its all-time high. The volatility appeared likely to continue on Friday as Russia's invasion entered its second day, and U.S. stock futures fell overnight. This is according to CNBC. Number 9, parents of teen to stand trial over deadly Michigan school shooting. A Michigan judge ruled Thursday that Jennifer and James Crumbly, parents of the 15-year-old boy charged with killing 4 students at his Michigan high school in November, can be put on trial for involuntary manslaughter charges. Rochester Hills District Court Judge Julie Nicholson held a preliminary examination and said afterwards that there was enough evidence for a trial in circuit court. The Crumbleys are accused of providing access to the gun their son, Ethan Crumbly, is charged with using in the shooting and failing to act on signs that he was in mental distress. Their lawyer said the parents had no reason to believe their son might attack classmates and teachers at his school, Oxford High School, north of Detroit. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 10, and don't I know it, winter storm hits 100 million people across the U.S. A huge storm that has placed more than 100 million people under extreme weather advisories from Texas to Maine is expected to hit the Northeast on Friday after disrupting travel and knocking out power in parts of the central U.S. On Thursday, more than 1,000 flights were canceled Wednesday and Thursday at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport as ice storm hits parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. Hundreds of traffic accidents were reported. A toddler was killed in a wreck in Kentucky. Quote, prepare now for this major winter storm, end quote. The National Weather Service warned as parts of the Northeast and New England braced up for up to a foot of snow. Quote, widespread hazardous travel and damage to the power infrastructure are expected, end quote. This is according to USA Today and the Washington Post. That's 10 things you need to know today for Friday, February 25th, 2022. Thank you so much for listening along. This has been What Makes You Smarter. I know I stumble a lot, but I'm trying to fill my head with knowledge. And if you'd like the sound of my voice, maybe you'll come along the journey. Won't you join me? I'm hoping that the RAB is open tonight in Conway, Arkansas. And maybe I can slide up the hill and give the people a show tonight. If not, hey, be safe. Stay inside and stay warm. Hope you got enough food and shelter. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.